Some childhood fears fade with time. Mine didn't. Because what opened my closet door every night wasn't the house settling, or the wind, or my imagination. And years later, when I finally understood what it really was, I realized something far worse. It hadn't been trying to scare me. It had been trying to follow me. I haven't told this story in years. It's hard for people to understand how a fear, once buried after the children calm down, can still cling to you long into adulthood. But the truth is, I didn't imagine what happened. I didn't exaggerate it. The bedroom door really did open at the same exact minute every night. And what I saw back then wasn't just a nightmare. Whatever lived behind that silent opening, that shape carved into my childhood, has never stopped breathing. I was 8 years old. Our house was small, the hallways dim, the walls carrying a faint smell of dampness. My mother always said, old houses make noise at night, but I knew exactly which sound she was trying to dismiss. My closet door. Every night, the same time, the same small click, as if something hiding inside was pressing gently against the wood, testing it, like it wanted to wake me. There wasn't a digital clock in my room, but your body remembers things like that. The moment the click came, my heart would match its rhythm, soft at first, then louder, until my breaths drowned everything out. Looking back, only one question remains. Why did my mother's face fall the moment I told her? Why did she immediately hush me and say, "Don't talk about that door again"? Is that really how a mother responds to a child's fear? Back then, I wasn't brave enough to question her. I got out of bed and stared into the narrow gap of the closet door. That thin line of darkness looked like an open eye watching the whole room. And the longer it stayed open, the more that line seemed to widen, almost as if something inside was breathing with me. Years later, I learned something. Children don't remember things wrong. We forget details, yes. But the feeling, the fear, the truth behind the fear, never. It took me a long time to understand what really started that night. When the closet door opened for the first time, I wasn't just a child. Without knowing it, I had stepped into something I wouldn't fully grasp, not even as an adult. And here's the part I still struggle with. The closet wasn't only visible back then. Some things never leave. I remember the night the closet door opened, clearer than almost anything else from my childhood. So clear that even now, when I close my eyes, the scene flashes up as if it's happening again. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, my knees pulled together inside my striped pajamas. Everything in the room was silent. Everything in the house was silent. But none of it compared to the noise rising inside my chest. At first, the door trembled, just slightly, like a tiny breath had brushed against it. Then came the sound. Tap, tap, tap. A soft scraping, like a fingernail dragging across wood. Not the wind. The wind doesn't move like that. It doesn't scrape with intention. It doesn't choose a rhythm. I whispered to myself anyway. It's just the wind. It's just the wind. But even at 8 years old, I knew I was lying. And then the door opened. Not fast, not dramatically. Just slowly enough that I saw every inch of darkness grow wider, like a mouth widening to speak. Nothing stepped out. No shadow. No hand. No figure. But the cold that slipped from inside the closet felt wrong. It wasn't the kind of cold that comes from a draft. It was deeper, heavier, as if the darkness had its own breath. I wanted to run to my mother, but I couldn't. My legs trembled, but they didn't move. It felt like invisible fingers had wrapped around my ankles, holding me in place. Minutes passed. The door eased shut. No wind, no shift in the house. It was as though someone gently pushed it from the inside. The next morning, I told my mother everything. My voice shook, my eyes filled with tears. Not the dramatic fear of a child, but something real, something raw. Her reaction hurt more than anything. "The closet doesn't open by itself," she said. "It's nonsense. Nighttime thoughts." Does a mother say that? But something in her eyes betrayed her words. A flicker of fear, so quick I almost missed it. She smothered it with a forced smile, placed her hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Enough. Stop talking about it." And that's when I understood. I wasn't the only one afraid. My mother was scared too, terrified even. She just couldn't admit it. And somehow, that made everything worse. My mother had silenced me that morning, but she hadn't erased anything. And unfortunately, things only got worse after that night. The closet door no longer just opened. The entire room began to change, subtly, quietly, until I felt like it was breathing with me in the dark. As a child, I didn't have the words to describe it. But now, years later, I understand. Nothing in the house changed. But the feeling inside my room did. During the day, it looked like a normal child's room. My toys on the shelves, my books, my bed with its wrinkled blanket. But when evening came, everything felt tighter. The walls seemed to close in. Shadows stretched higher along the ceiling. It was as if the darkness inside the closet was slowly leaking outward, inch by inch, waiting for me to notice it. I also began waking up at the same exact time every night. Not near the same time, not roughly. Exactly. As if something inside the room had tapped me awake. Why the same minute? Why always the third small sound? Why did the pattern never break? The moment these questions settled in my mind, the comfort of childhood slipped away from me. Kids usually forget their fears. They get distracted, they play, they move on. But my nights weren't the same. There was nothing to move on from. Every night the click was a little closer, every opening a little wider, every ounce of darkness a little colder. Soon I found myself watching the thin strip of light under the closet door before I slept. Even with the door tightly shut, a faint shadow would move beneath it, side to side, slowly, as if someone were walking back and forth inside. I became too scared to tell my mother anymore, because whenever I did, two things happened. She grew tense, and I felt even more alone. One night, I gathered enough courage to push a chair in front of the closet door. A child's logic. If I block it, it can't open. Simple, hopeful, desperate. But the chair didn't simply fall that night. It crashed. First against the door, crack, and then onto the floor with a violent thud. Children in stories scream, and parents rush to help. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. Because somehow, even then, I knew. If I made a sound, I would be acknowledging it. I would be letting it know I was awake. So I laid there, eyes wide open, until morning. Not moving, barely breathing. And that night, for the first time, I understood. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the old house. It wasn't nighttime thoughts. Whatever was inside that closet wanted me. After the night the chair fell, I couldn't sleep alone anymore. but I didn't dare tell my mother. Somewhere inside me, I felt she wasn't dismissing my fear because she doubted me, but because she knew something she couldn't explain, something she didn't want me touching, literally or figuratively. One afternoon, I came home from school and found her in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, but her hands weren't steady. She usually smiled when she saw me. That day, she didn't. Just one quick glance. Then she turned away, almost flinching. "Mom," I said quietly, "the chair fell last night." Her hands froze. The soapy water dripped slowly from her fingers into the sink, but she didn't turn around. "A chair doesn't fall on its own," she said, her voice flat. Then she finally faced me, wearing a calm expression that didn't belong to her. A practiced expression, a mask. "Your room is messy. You probably bumped into it and forgot." But the way she said it, she knew I remembered everything. That evening, when she walked into my room, something changed. Not in the room, in her. She stood in front of the closet door. Not close, never close, but staring at it, as though she were looking at something familiar. Something she hoped she'd never have to see again. "Why do you always keep this door closed?" she asked. Her voice trembled, just slightly. Just enough for a child who knows their mother's voice to hear the truth hiding under it. "Why would I leave it open?" I asked. "It's dark inside." She nodded, but what she said next made my stomach twist. "Maybe it's better if it stays open." No mother would say that. Not to a child already afraid of the dark. I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to ask her what she meant, but the words stuck in my throat. She dropped the subject, kissed my forehead, and left the room. The closet door remained open that night, all night, because she had left it that way. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The darkness was too still, too careful, like it was waiting for something. My mother's behavior that day still echoes through my mind. I wasn't the one who was afraid. She was. And the question that kept scratching at the back of my mind was this: what exactly did my mother know? And why was she afraid of a closet door? I didn't sleep a single second the night my mother left the closet door open. My eyes stayed fixed on the dark gap, searching for even the smallest movement. Every time I thought I heard a click or a shift, my whole body froze. But nothing happened, and somehow that frightened me more than anything ever had, because the closet always made noise at night. The silence wasn't comforting. It felt intentional, like something inside was waiting for me to relax, waiting for the right moment. The next morning, I didn't say anything to my mother, but she asked anyway. "Did you hear anything last night?" She didn't look at me when she said it. She was pouring water into a glass, but her hands were shaking so much she didn't even notice when the water reached the brim and spilled over her fingers. "No," I lied. "I did hear something." At 2:57 a.m., a long, slow breath slipped out from the darkness of the closet. Not a creak, not a click, not a footstep. A breath. Deep, heavy, alive. A breath that didn't belong in my room. I wanted to run to my mother, but that's the mind of a child. You think if you stay still, nothing can touch you. My bed was my shield, my blanket, my armor. So I lay there, trembling until morning. But the real nightmare wasn't the breath. It happened the next afternoon. When I came home from school, I found my mother standing in front of my closet. The door was open. She was leaning forward, her arm reaching into the darkness, her face hidden by the shadow inside. "Mom," I whispered. She jolted violently, as if I'd caught her doing something forbidden. She yanked her hand back, slammed the door shut, and turned toward me with wide, startled eyes. "You keep this door closed, okay?" she said. Her voice was shaking. But hadn't she told me 2 days earlier that it was better if the door stayed open? The contradiction was too sharp to ignore. My mother wasn't just confused, she was torn. She didn't know whether the door should stay open or closed. She didn't know what made it open in the first place. She didn't know what she had almost touched inside the darkness. And at dinner that night, she barely spoke. Her eyes drifted constantly toward the hallway where my room was. It was as if she thought the darkness from the closet might seep through the walls and follow her. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. The closet wasn't just watching me anymore. Somehow, it was watching her too. After the day I found my mother reaching into the closet, our home stopped feeling like home. It was subtle at first, quiet shifts, small changes. But within a week, the entire house felt infected, not by something physical, by something dark, something that seeped from room to room, the way cold creeps under a closed door. My mother stopped coming into my room at night. Before all of this, she'd peek in, whisper goodnight, brush my hair back. But now, she avoided my doorway completely. One evening at dinner, I noticed her eyes flickering toward the hallway. It wasn't intentional. It was instinct, like a survival reflex. But every time she looked there, her breathing changed. A quick inhale, a tightening of her jaw. "How was she started, then stopped. Her voice drifted off, as if something had interrupted her thoughts mid-sentence. She wasn't just distracted. She was listening. Listening for something only she seemed to hear. That night, before bed, I noticed a faint glow stretching along the bottom of my bedroom door. It wasn't from my lamp. It wasn't the moon. It was the hallway light, but dimmer, somehow wrong. I pressed my ear to the door. My mother was whispering, not talking, not praying. Whispering to someone or to something. No, she's just a child. She's just... I couldn't make out the rest, but her tone was unmistakable. Fear, resistance, and surrender. My mother wasn't arguing with a person. She was arguing with the house. Minutes later, the hallway light clicked off, but the footsteps continued, not my mother's. They were too deliberate, too slow. They creaked the way old wood does when someone is trying not to be heard. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. The footsteps moved closer to my room, stopped outside the closet, and then tap, tap, tap. A knock, not on my door, on the closet door. Even though the closet was closed, it felt like I was inside. A feeling I can't fully explain settled over me. The darkness wasn't confined to that closet anymore. It had started moving through the house, room by room, breath by breath. And for the first time I wondered, if the darkness left the closet, where was it now? And what was it following? By the time a week had passed, the tension in the house had become a living thing. It clung to the walls, settled in the corners, and followed me from room to room. Even during the day, the air felt heavier, like the house was holding its breath. At school, my teacher asked me twice if I was tired. I wanted to say, "My closet opens on its own every night, and my mom whispers to it." But a child doesn't say that. Even if they did, no one would believe them. The worst part wasn't the lack of sleep. It was the change in my mother. She stopped looking at me. She used to glance at me often, while cooking, while talking, while setting the table. Little moments of warmth that reminded me she was still there. But now, she kept her gaze fixed anywhere except my face. One evening, as she stood at the counter chopping vegetables, I finally asked, "Mom, why won't you look at me?" She didn't answer at first. Her knife paused mid-air, her shoulders tensed. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, fragile, afraid, she said, "I can't look, because there's something on your face." A child can't understand a sentence like that, but a child's heart feels it. Mine cracked. "Something on my face?" I whispered. "Like what?" She didn't answer. She didn't move. She just held her breath. After that night, she began sitting at the dinner table with her back to me. Every time I spoke, she flinched. Just slightly, but enough for me to notice. It wasn't me she was avoiding. It was the thing she believed was with me. Later that night, I walked into my room and felt my stomach drop. The closet door was closed. Normally, that would have reassured me. But after everything that had happened, the closed door felt worse. Like something was waiting behind it. Like it was being held there, temporarily. As I crawled into bed, a shadow slid under my bedroom door. Not fast, not smooth. Just one slow, deliberate movement. Like a footstep taken by someone who didn't know how to walk like a human. Then I heard my mother's voice from the hallway. But it wasn't normal. It was shaky, uneven. "Don't leave." Was she talking to me, or to something else? I froze. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. Her shadow appeared through the crack of my door, but her face wasn't visible. It was as if the light was bending around her, hiding her expression on purpose. She stood there for a few seconds, then walked away without a word. Only her shuffling, trembling footsteps remained. That was the moment I understood. My mother wasn't afraid of me anymore. She was afraid of the thing that walked with me. The silence between my mother and me grew so thick that I could almost hear it. An invisible weight trailing us from room to room. By then, the house no longer felt like a place where people lived. It felt like something was living in us. One morning before school, I opened my bedroom door and froze. The closet door was wide open. At night, its opening was horrific but familiar. But in the pale gray light of morning, something about it felt worse, wrong. Like whoever or whatever was inside hadn't finished what it started. I stepped closer. My clothes weren't just messy. They looked disturbed, pulled aside, shifted, handled. Even my shoes on the bottom shelf had changed position, one now slightly turned inward, the other moved forward, as if someone had stood on them. I reached out to close the door. "Leave it." My mother's voice drifted from the kitchen, thin, shaky, almost pleading. I turned. "You don't need to touch it," she said. "Just let it stay that way." "Why?" I asked. She didn't answer. The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. My stomach hurt all the way to school. My teacher asked if I felt sick. How could I tell her that I wasn't sick? That my closet was open, that my mother was talking to it, and that something in the house felt awake. Children think staying silent keeps things from becoming real. That day I left school early because of stomach pain. When I arrived home, my mother's car wasn't in the driveway. The house was empty, quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. I walked to my room and stopped dead in the doorway. The closet was open again, wider this time, as if someone had stepped out, or stepped in, only moments before I arrived. My clothes hung crooked. The air inside felt colder than the rest of the room. A faint smell, like old wood and something damp, clung to the back of my throat. Then I heard it. Click. A tiny, deliberate sound. The closet door shifted. Slowly. Very slowly. It tried to close, but it didn't. It stopped halfway, open, waiting, watching. I stumbled backward, and then I heard it. A voice. Soft. Close. Too close. Don't close it. It sounded like my mother, but she wasn't home, and the tone wasn't hers. There was a vibration in it, something hollow and echoed, like two voices overlapping. The closet door stayed open. The voice lingered in my ear. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the thing in the closet wanted me gone. For the first time, I felt like it was waiting for me. That evening, when my mother finally came home, her face looked different, tight, drained, as if something invisible had been hanging off her shoulders all day. She didn't even take off her shoes. She walked straight past me and into my room. I followed quietly, stopping at the doorway. She stood in front of the closet, not touching it, not opening it, just staring. Her head tilted slightly, as though she were listening to someone standing inside. It didn't look like curiosity. It looked like obedience. Then, in a voice so small it barely sounded like hers, she whispered, "Okay." But that okay wasn't for me. It wasn't even for herself. It was directed into the closet. I froze. She turned sharply when she sensed me behind her, her expression empty, like she had forgotten how to use her face. That night, my mother didn't talk during dinner. Not a word. Her eyes stayed fixed on the hallway as if waiting for something to walk through it. There is something terrifying about watching an adult, especially your mother, sit on the floor in front of a dark doorway like she's waiting for instructions. I held my breath as she whispered again, "Don't disturb him." My chest tightened. "Him?" I wanted to ask, but the words never made it past my lips. It felt like something was pressing them down inside me. Without looking up, she continued, "He didn't choose you, but he stands next to you." I didn't understand. Children don't understand sentences like that. But every instinct inside me screamed that something was terribly wrong. That night, as I lay in bed, I tried to convince myself I was imagining everything. Then came the footsteps. Small, slow, deliberate. They approached my door and stopped. A faint glow from the hallway revealed a shadow under the door. A child's shadow. But it wasn't mine. My breath caught in my throat. "Mom?" I whispered. Silence. Then, click. The closet door behind me shifted, as if something inside it tried to close it or hold it open. I pulled the covers over my head, and then I heard it. A voice, a child's whisper, right next to my ear. "Your room is so dark." But it wasn't just any voice. It was my voice, a warped echo, like a version of me that had been hiding in the dark too long, learning how to sound human again. My mother came running. She didn't open my door. She stood on the other side, trembling. "Don't look at him," she cried. "If you see him, he won't leave you." But it was already too late. The shadow under the door was shaped exactly like mine, only wrong. Taller in some places, shorter in others, like a reflection bending itself into the shape of a child. That's when I understood. The closet door wasn't opening to let something out. It was opening to let another version of me in. There are nights you forget, nights that blur together. And then there are nights your mind refuses to let go of. This one stayed with me. I remember pieces of it too vividly. The pale hallway light, the cold air, the tremble in my mother's breath. I wasn't brave. I was just a child who didn't yet understand how fear can grow larger than you. When the shadow appeared under my door again, I climbed out of bed. My mother was whispering frantically from the hallway. "Don't look. Don't look. If you look, he'll stay." But warnings to a child become stories, and stories become curiosity. I reached for the doorknob. The moment my fingers touched it, a coldness rushed through the room. Not from outside, but from behind me, as if someone had stepped out of the walls themselves. I turned the handle. The hallway should have been bright. The lights were on. But the darkness standing there swallowed every bit of it, like a void wearing the shape of a corridor. And in that void, the shadow stood, the silhouette of a child. My height, my size, but the way it held its head, tilted too far to one side as if its neck were deciding whether to break or straighten, was not human. "This isn't mine," I whispered to myself. "This isn't mine." Then, click. My closet door opened behind me. Not a normal door sound. It was deeper, sharper, like a chain loosening after being pulled for years. The shadow turned toward it. Its feet never touched the floor. Its movements mimicked a child's steps, but wrong, like watching a puppet, trying to remember what a human body was supposed to do. And then, it turned back to me. For the first time, I saw its face, and I wish I hadn't. It was my face, but warped. The features slightly misaligned, the eyes too hollow, the smile stretched too wide, as if carved into place. A replica of me, but incomplete. Like something had tried to build a version of me using only darkness. Then a whisper, my own voice, but cracked and doubled. "It's you. You're the one opening the door, not me." Before I could move, my mother burst into the room. She grabbed me, pulling me away, finally looking at me, really looking at me, for the first time in weeks. Her voice broke as she screamed, "Don't look at him. If you look, he gets inside." But it was too late. Our eyes had already met. The shadow recoiled into the closet, as if returning home, as if waiting, as if leaving space inside me, where it knew I would feel it forever. The closet door slammed shut on its own. My mother dragged me out of the room into the hallway. We never spoke of that night again. Not once. Years later, long after I'd grown up, I found a small box of childhood keepsakes while unpacking in a new apartment. Inside was a photo of me at 8 years old. Only there were two of me in the picture, one in front and behind me. A second shadow of myself, head tilted to the same impossible angle I saw that night. That's when I understood. The closet didn't open for something outside. It opened for me. And some doors, once opened, never truly close again.